Question for you all. What happens when the same company tells you two completely opposite things at the same time? Well, so we're going to talk about today with the efficiency paradox. Anthropic has just opened up that conversation. And I think it really gets interesting. Here we are in February, second month of 26. And Anthropic is winning in lots of places. They're winning in AI for coding, they're winning for agents, etc. But the question is, what is developer productivity? They've had a lot of articles about this recently. And really, I want to talk about the efficiency paradox that's here. Is that they just published a research paper talking about developers who delegate to coding tasks score 17% lower on comprehension tests. They lost nearly 2 full letter grades of understanding compared to developers who worked without AI. The biggest gap? Debugging. Why? Well, they didn't know the code. So the question I ask you is, do you need to understand the code? Do you need to be the driver of the decisions of the code? I think there's two different plays there, because the exact skills you need to supervise an AI output are not the exact skills you need to develop the code. Well, Boris and team, they've done a great job, right? Boris is out there with Claude Code, and they've published master playbooks. Boris published his in January. He then published one at the end of January where he talks about how he team does it, right? The message? Spin up 5 parallel work trees. Delegate the tasks to sub-agents, auto-accept the edits, and let the model drive. Create evals, know what good looks like, and let it do its thing. So one company, 2 different teams, 2 completely different stories about how you should do with AI right now. The tension? That's the paradox at hand. What are we really doing today? And that's what we're going to unpack. Because if you lead engineers, if you're the architect of systems, if you're responsible for how organizations adapt to AI, you cannot afford to ignore either side of the coin. So let's start with the efficiency story. As you can see here, Boris Cherny, an engineer at Anthropic, published what he calls the master playbook for Claude Code. It's genuinely impressive. It's a list of tips and architecture shifts of how developers relate to their tools. Core ideas: stop thinking of yourself as a coder. Start thinking of yourself as the orchestrator. You are the maestro of the work. The playbook recommends running up to 5 parallel Git work trees, 5 separate sessions where Claude's writing code simultaneously. You delegate refactoring to sub-agents. You /command to your inner loops. You're managing a fleet of AI workers, not writing a line of code. And I know for a lot of developers who are artisans, that becomes a challenge. And the workflow philosophy is elegant. Pour your energy into the plan. Get specifications tight. The context is clear. The architecture is right. So the AI can, for all intents and purposes, one-shot the implementation. Once the plan's solid, you switch to auto-accept and let the model drive. It's a compelling vision. And for experienced engineers who have developed the mindset and the materials, the understanding, the capabilities of doing this, you're ready for it. And I think that's part of the story, right? As someone who's been doing this for over 20 years, starting with COBOL and Java and C and C# and a litany of languages, I can code in any of them. So could probably many of you. And I think that's what makes it a really interesting challenge, is that as the elites in the industry, it's easy for us. But what about the other groups? So cognitive atrophy, a 17% decrease in mastery. So researcher Judy Han, Shen, and Alex Tamkin from Anthropic ran randomized control, although it was a small control. They gave developers a task: learn a new programming library and complete a set of coding tasks. Half the group got AI assistance, half didn't, right? Standard random test. Both groups took a comprehensive quiz afterwards. The results, quite stark. The AI-assisted group scored 17% lower. That's not noise. Statistically significant at a p equals 0.001, and it maps roughly to 2 full letter grades, a 50% average versus 67%. But here's what surely can be concerning to you as a leader. They couldn't debug the code. So now you either have to hand it off to AI or have something else. The biggest gap was in the syntax questions and basic recall. It was debugging. The developers who used the AI couldn't diagnose the problem. One participant put it simply, by using the AI, they felt like they got lazy. They delegated it out, right? And that's what a lot of leaders do. They delegate it out. And here's the kicker for the challenge. The whole product narrative, AI-assisted group, was not necessarily faster. I guess AI assisted versus AI enabling, which we'll get to later. But many participants spent about 11 minutes to 35 minutes of tasks just composing and rewriting prompts. The interaction overhead canceled for code generation speeds. I think we're going to find some challenges here with that conversation, right? Is that really, truly, is that the issue? You know, interactive modes determine the outcomes. Danger mode, if you delegate, safe mode, conceptual inquiries. Have the code explain what it's doing while you're having the conversations with it. So don't just say, code me this, and explain why. The why becomes critical as part of this conversation. So that becomes, AI is not bad. It's AI is very nuanced. It identified 6 distinct interaction points. The outcomes are dramatically different based on that. And I want to ask yourself, right, as we go into this pivot point, do we want to be delegating or not? I think open clause shows maybe we do want to delegate. Being the highest ranked GitHub repository ever, CloudBot, Moltbot, OpenCloud, whatever you want to call it, has shown that we're ready to AI delegate. And maybe we don't know how. Maybe if we have the right observability, telemetry, and coding in place, we can do without that. And I think that's a key part that's missing between what Boris is telling us and what the study said. Study said AI assistant. Boris is saying, hey, what can we do? So cognitive offload, what do we do? This is where the two stories kind of collide, right? The playbook's goals is friction removal, auto accept, right? Boris is like, go and load. We know what good looks like. The research finding is that friction removal causes skill erosion. Do you want to optimize for speed? Or do you want to optimize for developer engagement and understanding of the code base? I don't know what the right answer is. What do you think? Comment below. So, the subagent trap. This is where things get even more challenging. As you have agents who are orchestrating other agents, this is where the playbook kind of takes off, right? It's not just offloading one task, it's offloading the object to solve a problem, right? So it takes the individual tasks, it gives them to subagents, your main context window stays clean, but from a system perspective, it's a great smart architecture. Do you know what it did? Right? These are things that we're growing, not things that we're teaching. So when you hand a task to a subagent, it becomes a black box. The errors of the subagent encounters, the debugging, it's gone, right? It debugs itself. You never see any of that. And the research is clear. Participants who resolved errors manually retained the skills, and those who offload didn't. The subagent keeps your context clean, but you as a developer have no knowledge. Comes back to is how many developers work in a single code base, right? Who is the owner, right? And this is that staff engineering mindset kind of Venn diagram. Boris and his team in the playbook versus the researchers with AI and skill validation and knowledge. So what do we do with this? Because both stories actually have good merit. And the answer is not stop using AI. For heck no, we all know that one, right? Please don't stop using AI. The answer is know what your outcomes are you're trying to deliver. The playbook works, but why? Because it's surrounded by a team of experts. Now, what happens when they retire? That's to be seen. People who already possess the mental models to validate and verify the output, they understand the AI mental model. They've already built the understanding through years of struggle, right? They can automate because they know they've been there. They know what bad looks right. But this is the paradox, right? Researchers warn that for everyone else, even when you step into an unfamiliar territory, if you're an expert in one and not familiar with the others, you're learning a new experience. And if you need to be accountable for those outcomes, you need to start asking, why did you do this? Not do this. And that's the synthesis of what I would call staff and engineering mindset. Experts sit at the intersection of automation and verification. Staff engineer just needs to sit at both. So let's make this practical, right? This is where I think we get into it, where you can have the playbook from Boris and you can have the work that's going on with the researchers, is that you can build in a verification loop. You can be that human guardrail. The verification loop, never auto accept edits on the library domain you do not have deep understanding for. Before you land a change, demand verification, run test suites, bash commands, test in browser, evals. This forces you into the hybrid code explanation pattern the researchers identify as high scoring. You're not slowing yourself down. You're building the guardrails that keep you in the loop. Thoughts? It can work. But also, the Ralph Wiggum loop works really well too, right? Do you know what the outcomes should look like? Do you know right from wrong? Have you evaluated it? If you do your work up front, it becomes a question if you need to do this. So, from delegation to documentation, anytime the AI makes a mistake, which it will, I make mistakes every day and I'm human, right? Have it correct your Claude file. And why this works, right? As you learn errors and articulate it better, your Claude system will build it up and you'll get that better understanding, that articulation, that cognitive understanding will help build the delegation out. Configure your tools to help you learn. In your Claude Code configuration, hooks, agents, subagents, enable exploration, right? Subagents are fine. Just have it create a PM markdown of everything that created and tell you why. Don't say fix the error and why. Create this as part of your old CLAUDE.md file. And from that, you'll not be able to say, I don't know, to I can tell you why. At the end, mastery is not the absence of friction. And that's what we have to think about. Mastery is not the absence of friction. It's the automation of execution and elevation of verification. As the orchestrator, you cannot automate things you don't understand, but can you build the tools to make you understand it and get the speed out? That's what opportunity sits in front of us. If you're a learner, never auto accept on unfamiliar code, unfamiliar territory. Tell it to explain, have it create markdown files, spend time doing quizzes. If you're an expert, maximize those parallel work trees, demand rigorous test coverage, good evals, good data sets, synthetic silvers from every subset, from every sub-agent that you're running. If you lead teams, shift your code review focus. Don't just review the PR. Review everything that made the rules happen. CLAUDE.md, hooks, third-party calls. Verify the engineers understand what they fixed. Not that did it just compile or pass a CI. let's cook. Efficiency gains are real and we need to make them, right? And we're going to get to the point where we just let it code. But we can always tell it to make sure that we're right. And this is the kind of tension we want. This is where we're headed. This is the transitional period of all of our lives that will make it better. So you don't say one is right and one is wrong because we're not there yet and we don't know. And next week and next day and tomorrow and 2 weeks from now, there'll be new models with new outcomes. But this is what enterprise AI adoption looks like. It's not the hype. It's definitely not the fear, but it's the patterns that respect the trade-offs, the culture, and the desires of where the company wants to go. Hey, I'm Nick Perry. And if you want more from NPinTech for this hype-free AI era, subscribe. Hit that link below. Thanks for watching. Have an awesome day.